Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. When we think about the historical enemies and rivals of the people of Israel, it's common to remember the Canaanites. But did you know that this group was not homogeneous? In fact, they were divided into several tribes. At least 11 of them are described in the book of Genesis, chapter 10. Today, I want to talk about one of the most significant Canaanite tribes, the Jebusites. Have you heard of them? This tribe is one of the oldest in Canaan, and its importance goes far beyond what many might imagine. What makes the Jebusites so interesting is that they inhabited a strategic area, the city of Jerusalem, long before the Israelites took control of it. But who exactly were the Jebusites? Why did this tribe play such a crucial role in the history of Canaan and, eventually, in the history of Israel? In today's video, we're going to explore all the fascinating details about this tribe, their origins, customs, and how they influenced the history of the city that would become the spiritual center for multiple religions. So, if you're curious to learn more about the first inhabitants of Jerusalem and how they became intertwined in the history of the Israelites, stay until the end of this video. Let's unravel the mysteries of the Jebusites, the tribe that lived in Jerusalem before the Israelites. The Jebusites, known in Phoenician Hebrew as Jebusite, were, according to the books of Joshua and Samuel in the Hebrew Aramaic Bible, a Canaanite tribe that inhabited the city of Jerusalem, then called Jbus or Jebus, which literally means, trodden place. This city was occupied by the Jebusites before the Israelite conquest initiated by Joshua, as mentioned in Joshua 11 verse 3 and 12:10, and finally completed by King David, as recorded in 2 Samuel 5 verses 6 to 10. While the book of Joshua is one of the oldest accounts of the conquest of Jebus, a reference to the city can also be found in 1 Chronicles 11 verse 4, which states that Jerusalem was known as Jebus before various historical events took place. The identification of Jebus with Jerusalem is sometimes contested by some scholars. However, according to the most widely accepted biblical chronologies, the city was conquered by King David around 1003 BC, solidifying Jerusalem as the capital of the unified kingdom of Israel. This conquest marked a turning point in the city's history, which would become the political and spiritual center for the Hebrew people. In addition to biblical sources, archaeological and historical references to the Jebusites provide further clues about their culture and presence in ancient Canaan, though many details remain obscure. The identification of Jebus with Jerusalem has been a subject of debate and frequently sparks discussions among scholars, particularly by Niels Peter Lemke. He argues that every non-biblical mention of Jerusalem in the ancient Near East refers to the city as Jerusalem. A relevant example is the Amarna letters, many of which were written by Abdi-Heba, the ruler of Jerusalem, who called the city Jerusalem around 1330 BC. In these same letters, the city is also referred to as Beth Shalem, or House of Shalem. The Sumerian Akkadian name for Jerusalem, Ur-Yusalim, has been interpreted in various ways. One etymology suggests it means, foundation of the god Shalim, with Shalim being the Canaanite god associated with the setting sun, the underworld, and concepts of health and perfection. Another interpretation considers the Semitic origin of the term YRY, which means, to found, or, to lay a cornerstone. Additionally, the renowned scholar Theophilus G. Pinches highlighted a reference to Jebusu, which he identified as an early form of Jebus, found in a contract tablet dated to 2200 BC, suggesting an ancient connection to the city of Jerusalem. This reinforces the complexity of the name's origins and the historical and cultural significance of Jerusalem over millennia, involving both religious and political influences. The ethnic origins of the ancient Jebusites have been the subject of study, and the Hebrew Bible is the only ancient source that uses the term Jebusi, or Jebusi, Jebusite, to describe the inhabitants of Jerusalem before the arrival of the Israelites. In the book of Genesis, chapter 10, the Jebusites are identified as part of the Canaanites, listed third among Canaanite groups, following the Hittites and preceding the Amorites. For a long time, prior to advances in modern archaeology, many biblical scholars believed that the Jebusites and the Hittites were the same people. Although this theory has lost credibility over the years, some still maintain this connection, albeit with less conviction. Recent archaeological and historical studies, however, suggest a more complex view of the Jebusites' origins, possibly indicating that they were a distinct group with diverse cultural and ethnic influences due to Jerusalem's strategic location, which exposed the city to various civilizations over time. An increasingly popular view regarding the origin of the Jebusites was proposed by Edward Lipinski, a professor of Oriental and Slavic Studies at KU Leuven. Lipinski suggests that the Jebusites were likely a tribe associated with the Amorites. He identified this group with the Jebusite mentioned in a cuneiform letter found in the archive of Mari, Syria. This finding supports the hypothesis that the Jebusites may have had a connection to the Amorites, a significant civilization of antiquity. In the Amarna letters, there is mention that the contemporary king of Jerusalem was named Abdi-Heba, a theophoric name invoking the Hurrian goddess Hepet. This suggests that the Jebusites might have been Hurrians or, at the very least, mixed with them. The presence of this theophoric name implies that Hurrian culture strongly influenced the Jebusites or that they were subordinate to a Hurrian ruling class, such as the Tmerianu, a military elite known to govern in various regions. Another point that reinforces this Hurrian connection is the last Jebusite king mentioned in the Bible, Araunah, cited in 1 Chronicles 21 verse 15. His name is commonly interpreted as derived from the Hurrian honorific Ur, which further evidences Hurrian influence over the Jebusites, whether through political domination or cultural intermingling. These connections broaden our understanding of the complex ethnic and cultural formation of the Jebusites, who were influenced by various Near Eastern civilizations. Interestingly, scholar Richard Hess identifies 4 Hurrian names in the biblical narrative concerning the conquest of Canaan: Hiram, king of Jarmuth, and Hoam, king of Hebron, Joshua 10 verse 3, as well as Sheshai and Talmai, sons of Anak, Joshua 15 verse 14. These names have Hurrian roots, reinforcing the idea of a significant Hurrian presence among the peoples mentioned in the Bible. In terms of ethnicity and physical appearance, the Jebusites initially seem to have resembled other Hamitic groups in the region, possibly having darker skin. However, as they intermixed with Indo-European groups, their genetic composition and physical appearance began to shift. This process of intermarriage led them to adopt characteristics more associated with Indo-Europeans, including a lighter skin tone. This transformation was not unique to the Jebusites. In general, the Canaanites intermingled extensively with other peoples, both of Japhetic, descendants of Japheth, and Semitic origin, resulting in a population with mixed physical traits. This diversity reflects the cosmopolitan nature of Canaan, a meeting point for various cultures and ethnicities throughout history. The Hebrew and Aramaic Bible describes the Jebusites as inhabitants of the mountains surrounding Jerusalem, as mentioned in Numbers 13:29 and Joshua 11 verse 3. In the burning bush narrative of Exodus 3 verse 18, the promised land to Moses, described as a good and spacious land, flowing with milk and honey, includes the land of the Jebusites. In Joshua 10, Adonizedek, the king of Jerusalem, led a coalition of Jebusites and other tribes from neighboring cities like Jarmuth, Lachish, Eglon, and Hebron against Joshua, but they were defeated and Adonizedek was killed. Despite these defeats, the Jebusites maintained their presence in Jerusalem. In Joshua 15 verse 63, it is stated that the people of Judah were unable to drive out the Jebusites, who continued to live in Jerusalem. To this day the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah. Similarly, Judges 1 verse 21 confirms that the Jebusites remained in the city within the territory of the tribe of Benjamin. According to 2 Samuel, the Jebusites still controlled Jerusalem during the time of King David, who sought to conquer the city. When David attempted to take the stronghold of Jebus, which was the most fortified city in Canaan, the Jebusites mocked his efforts, claiming that even the blind and the lame could defend against his siege. However, according to the Masoretic text, David succeeded in capturing Jerusalem through a surprise attack led by Joab, who used the city's water supply tunnels, possibly connected to the Gihon Spring. The discovery of Warren's Shaft in the 19th century, part of a system that linked the spring to the city, has been interpreted as evidence of the plausibility of this attack. In 1 Chronicles 11 verse 5, the account mentions a swift attack but does not refer to the use of water tunnels. Many scholars believe that the mention of this detail in the Masoretic text might be a scribal error, suggesting a potential inaccuracy in the narrative. Nonetheless, the capture of Jerusalem marked a significant turning point, establishing it as the future capital of the Kingdom of Israel under David's rule. In classical rabbinic perspectives, the Jebusites were believed to have derived their name from the city of Jebus, the ancient Jerusalem where they lived. According to these traditions, the Jebusites played an important role in Abraham's story. Rabbinic sources claim that when Abraham purchased the Cave of the Patriarchs, also known as the Cave of Machpelah, located in Jebusite territory, he made a pact with them. As part of this agreement, Abraham allegedly promised that his descendants would not seize control of Jebus against the Jebusites' will. According to these traditions, the Jebusites inscribed this covenant on bronze plaques, and the presence of these plaques in Jebus held deep significance. Rabbinic sources suggest that these statues or bronze plaques were the reason why the Israelites, under Joshua's leadership, were unable to conquer the city during their campaign. This covenant symbolized a spiritual or legal protection that prevented the Israelites from violating the agreement made by their patriarch, even after many generations. This rabbinic explanation attempts to account for the enduring resistance of the Jebusites in Jerusalem, linking it to a promise made by Abraham, a central figure in Judaism. It also reflects the importance that Jewish tradition places on covenants and promises, with implications that span across generations. The ancient Jebusites, being Canaanites, spoke a Canaanite language. This suggests that their primary language was likely Phoenician or ancient Canaanite. Additionally, due to possible cultural intermingling, it is likely they also spoke the Hurrian language. The origin of the Jebusites traces back to their patriarch Jebus, who, according to tradition, was a son of Canaan, making them direct descendants of the Canaanites and kin to other peoples in the region, such as the Sidonians, Phoenicians, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, and Sinites. In terms of religion, the Jebusites, like other Canaanites, followed the Canaanite pantheon and practiced the typical polytheism of the time. Their primary deities included Baal, Astarte, and Asherah, who were central figures in Canaanite mythology. Many scholars believe that Shalim, the Canaanite god associated with dusk and peace, was the most important deity to the Jebusites, as their city, Jebus, was known as the City of Shalim, which later became Jerusalem. Now, let me know in the comments, were you already familiar with this Canaanite tribe? Feel free to suggest other peoples or tribes you'd like to learn about in future videos. Stay blessed, and see you soon.